She obeys him so that he may love her. She obeys him so that he may love her. Men and women are different. Men and women are existentially different in ways that we cannot currently comprehend or articulate to each other. Gender is platonic. Gender is not just a feature of the world. Gender is a platonic feature of reality which the world exposes most purely and totally in the human person. We are destroying women. Feminism is a crime against women and men and humanity. Feminism is not about liberating women. Feminism is a part of the devil's plan to destroy the natural order of things. There is a natural order to the world, in particular to human consciousness, which in a sense is the world. There is a natural order. There is a natural law. You can kind of glean it from nature. I don't think you can axiomatically deduce it from nature, as some believe, but the truth about the secrets of the proper relations of the gender have been revealed to the Catholic Church, and its rules do encode the truth. Men and women are different, are meant to be different, and the world and human consciousness can only function properly when the proper dynamic between men and women is stabilized and sustained in culture. She obeys him so that he may love her. Feminism is the emergence of a de facto matriarchy at a level of control that is dangerous to society, because the correct control mechanisms of society are what we would call patriarchal. But it's not that women aren't involved. Women are extremely involved in their proper role as the supporters and defenders of men and their families. And they can be very engaged in the world and in their lives in a real way that's satisfying to them, without being shamed into thinking that they're not confronting a patriarchal hegemony that's suppressing them. What a crock! What a lie! It's not that women weren't important before they emerged in feminism. Women were extremely important and extremely involved shaping history. History is the things that men have done for women. He fell for it. Literally. He could not resist her, and he fell out of Eden and defied God for her. Because she is love. God, the mannequin obeys God so that God may love the mannequin. He fell for it. That's how much he loves her. And only when the relations are properly conjoined can the love properly explode and flourish. Otherwise, the thing goes haywire. The mannequin goes haywire. The feminine energy, when not properly channeled, is extremely dangerous and powerful. Let me tell you, there is no animal that you want to be around less, if you're going to be hostile to it, than a mommy guarding her pups. The feminine energy is powerful. It's creation itself. It has an agenda. And it wants to create. You know, sexuality is the hardest. It is absolutely the hardest part of this whole explanation of what's going on, because it's so uncool. There's no way for me to make it cool. It is what the Catholic Church says. Sexuality is something that is supposed to be between a man and a wife, and only if there's the possibility of procreation. Now that sounds like the craziest stringent standard you could possibly imagine. Why is it that hard? Why isn't it just an orgiastic love fest of bliss and, you know, free love? I mean, that's what we want sort of as apes. But let me tell you, what reality is about is a game. It's a video game where you save your soul. And there are rules to the game, and some of the rules are hard, and we can't really understand them. And one of the hardest rules is that it's about taming the snake. You have to tame the beast. It's really powerful. Sexual desire is really powerful, and it controls men. And that's why it has to be channeled properly. It's a dangerous force. And the devil knows it. That's why there's all this cliche all through history, the temptations of sex and dark women. And it's because you can use the sex drive in a very negative way if you're a smart manipulator. God knows, advertising knows this. The reality is very clear here, guys. It's very difficult. Because you're not even supposed to have an orgasm unless it's the possibility of procreation. That sounds insane to modern culture. It sounds literally mad. Because we are told that why would God prohibit something like masturbation or something? Don't think about it in terms of prohibit. You don't get the game. That's your spiritual mojo going out. What is the orgasm? The orgasm is a great existential mystery. It is touching some sort of crazy, erotic, feminine energy pulsating somehow through reality that we just don't have access to, that's somehow transcendental in nature. And even if the vision of gender is ultimately that in this orgasmic ecstasy they kind of come together into something, into a unity, there's nonetheless the maintenance of this platonic distinction between male and female at the core of reality. And there's a proper dynamic to it. The mannequin obeys God so that God can love the mannequin, because she is love. Because human consciousness can't take the central anxiety of the feminine. The central anxiety that for you to be here right now, your lovely mother who stared in your eyes when you were a baby 9 months before was a whore, so to speak. She did it with your dad, and it's the Oedipal crisis. The Oedipal crisis encodes the central crisis of human consciousness, which is that men cannot face that their mothers are sexual objects. And only Jesus Christ solves the problem existentially by making his mother a perpetual virgin. He is the anti-Oedipus. He overcomes Oedipus by being God and impregnating his own mother virginally. And the proper role for women is to be men's supporter and men's helper and a participant in a life together, which is more than the sum of its parts, and which has a possibility of producing other life. And this is an existential part of the story, and has always been an existential part of the story. It's just really hard to follow, because we have the selfish gene in us, we have the beast in us, and it just is so much damn fun. Sex is too good. Sex is far too good to not be the greatest mystery of the universe. And we have poisoned a generation of women who are told that the career should be the forefront of their mind and not the family. And I sound like some right-wing wacko or something, and this is just about nature. And when you see what the de facto matriarchy just being integrated into society is doing, and it's pushing out men, and it's making men dislike women, and it's making men feel emasculated, and what the point is that gender roles, because of the technological progress of society, this is all built into the system from the beginning for consciousness, gender roles are breaking down. And this is the ultimate sign that real confrontation with existential forces is coming. It's not that the polar ice caps are melting, and it's not that ISIS is doing this, or the New World Order is doing that. Those are flim-flammery compared to the existential forces of gender breakdown. It's not even okay to discuss the possibility anymore of transgenderism being considered maybe a problem, at least for some. It's not even possibly a disorder anymore. A man cannot become a woman for reasons we don't understand, because women are existentially different than men. That's why they're the mystery. The world has been carved by men chasing the mystery of women. The mystery of their desire, the mystery of their being, the mystery of their consciousness. We don't know what women are, other than that they are loved because we love them. Because they're mom, ultimately. And no one loves us more than mom. The one thing you always know in life, no matter who you are, is mommy loves you. She is love. The mannequin obeys God so that God may love the mannequin. She is, the church is the bride of Christ. And the church is Mary. Mary is the bride of Christ, but Mary is also God's mother. God solves Oedipus's crisis in himself, which is the central crisis of what the original sin is. I mean, it all points to it. That's the fundamental thing that kicks human consciousness into the box, into the cube, into the fear, the inability to confront the fact that your mother is also a wife, that your mother is a bride, sexually. It is a dangerous situation that we are finding ourselves in, because the control mechanisms of culture, it's not that, in a funny way, we've actually been suppressing the feminine. We really have. What you do is when you put women in roles where they create a matriarchal culture in society, in terms of how the bureaucracies are run and cultures run, you actually suppress the feminine. You turn women into something they're not, and then they go haywire. It's like, and just as the same thing would go, this is happening a little more, but if men were forced to do nothing but teach elementary school students all day, or every man had to stay home with his kids, it wouldn't function very well. There's a reason that elementary school teachers, especially young ones, are women. Men can't do it. And it's not about limiting women's options, it's about allowing them to fulfill the options that they really want to fulfill from their nature. And not thinking that the validation mechanisms of the world matter, because they don't, because what matters is the salvation of your soul, and her soul, and your children's soul. That's what matters, and the world, if anything, was something that the men had to do. We gave women the privilege of not having to deal with the BS of the world, which is a gift that women should be grateful for, that men traditionally have wanted to give them so that they could do what they do best. It's about being a real feminist, in the sense of really releasing women's power and energy and intelligence and beauty. And feminism was designed by, ultimately, Satan, the box, to break down basic gender structures. I mean, I'm talking about fundamentally changing the way people relate to each other in terms of their being. And it's a very dangerous situation. And but it's all inevitable. This is what happened. Consciousness goes on this trek into technology, ultimately from caveman to technology. Ultimately, the technology gets to the place where it allows women, they don't have to stay at home all the time because of various mechanisms in society to take care of kids otherwise. And women can enter the workforce, and a de facto matriarchy is starting to be set up, because women are also more easily controlled by the powers that be, so they're great for mid-level management at a certain level. And it's not that it's nothing diabolical in the sense of they're not doing it in a diabolical way. They're just trying to participate in what the culture says they should do, but it breaks down gender itself. The breakdown of the family that everyone always talks about, and there's this back and forth, and we're pro-family, you're not pro-family. It's about the breakdown of the way that human consciousness relates to its own sense of self in terms of the Platonic binaries of gender and how that relates to their behavior to the people they encounter in the world. We're running ourselves into a miserable situation, and we can't even see it because it's just too much noise now everywhere in culture. And there's a lot of men running away from women altogether, and there's a population crisis in Japan. And the point is, it's at the end. This is when all these anxieties finally get exposed and finally get confronted, because we're at the second coming of Jesus Christ, and this is what happens, and the secrets of men and women are revealed. And the fact that we're fundamentally different and existentially different in some really rich way that's beautiful but powerful is revealed. And there's no way for me to make the sexuality issue cool other than to say it's like a gameplay strategy. And one of the main gameplay strategies is taming the snake. And unless you are having a baby, if you can tame that beast, tame that snake, you will start to see the world through new eyes, because it controls you, and therefore women control you, or whoever you're attracted to, in ways you can't even possibly understand, because that is running the show. Because we think that's what maturity is. Because that's what maturity is to the selfish gene. Get to sexual maturity and then reproduce. That's the goal. That's how the ego first structures itself. It's always kind of corrupt, because it's always based on this neurotic desire to reproduce, selfish gene, copy genes, copy genes. But you have to get beyond that into spiritual reality and real maturity. And that beast will not control you anymore. And that's the hardest part of the story, because sex is so good. It's so fantastic. It's so much fun. It's so transcendentally good that it's by meditating on the power of sex in some way that you can actually start to get distance from it and eroticize reality. You're not going to get orgasms from it yet. I don't know. But God is erotic, though not libidinal. God is erotic, though not libidinal. And somehow the merging of the genders also maintains their distinctness. Because she is the object of love. Feminism is a crime against women, a crime against men, and a crime against humanity. And it turns women against their own ability to love properly. And that is the ultimate crime. And the subtle implications of what it does to the world and how it manifests itself in the Western world is very weird, but you can just see it if you look. Don't judge, just start to see how the world changes, how the media changes. It's part of a bigger program of being trapped in the cube. But the de facto mid-level matriarchy is a big part of it. Mommy's trying to run the show, and that's not okay. She obeys him so that he may love her.